And the recent voting in May this year, Andy Burnham just won the Makerfield by-election by over 9,000 votes. Reform came second, but Burnham still took nearly 55% of the vote and looked dominant doing it. The media is already treating this as proof that he's a man who can rescue Labour and take on reform. What they're not telling you is that Burnham is likely to be far more efficient at managing the decline than Starmer ever was. Starmer is finished and everyone knows it, especially after his rent boy scandal that happened with the Ukrainians in quote bombing his house, or arse bombing him himself, and including his suspicious timing as he's resigning as Prime Minister. His time as Prime Minister has been a complete disaster and his approval ratings have collapsed. Even the left were even complaining about Starmer's performance as the Prime Minister. But the system doesn't just give up when one face becomes toxic, it finds a new one. Andy Burnham is being lined up as that new face. He's being presented as more competent, more serious and more in touch with working people in the north. That's exactly why he's more dangerous. He'll do the same thing as Starmer did, only with more skill and less obvious weakness, including to do with mass immigration and also to do with messing up the economy even more. And when it comes down to someone like with Burnham and his record on the grooming gangs, when the grooming gang scandal first started coming to light in places like Rochdale and Oldham, Andy Burnham was already a senior Labour politician. He served in the Home Office under Tony Blair at a time when warnings about organised child sexual exploitation were being ignored or downplayed across the county. Later, as Mayor of Greater Manchester, he had a real power to do something about what had happened on his watch. Instead, he dragged his feet for years. It took heavy media pressure, including a BBC documentary, before he finally commissioned a review. Even then, the process was limited and carefully managed. Whistleblowers like Maggie Oliver have been clear that while Burnham was willing to look at historic failures, he was much less willing to confront what was still happening and hold current institutions to account. Victims have spoken about feeling betrayed by the lack of real action under his leadership. This is more serious stain on his record that shows how he operates when it comes down to protecting the system versus protecting the people. Burnham's win in Makerfield is being celebrated as a big moment for Labour. He beat Reform comfortably and the result has boosted his leadership chances. But look closer at what actually happened. Reform still took over 34% of the vote in a seat that should have been very difficult for them. Burnham didn't crush them because people suddenly fell back in love with Labour. He won because he's seen a stronger, more serious alternative to Starmer. The establishment knows that Starmer is finished. They need someone who can steady the ship and make the same policies look more reasonable. Burnham winning Makerfield gives them exactly that. It allows them to present him as the sensible, competent northerner who can take on reform without scaring the middle ground. It's the same trick they've used before. Replace the failing leader with someone fresher while keeping the direction of the travel exactly the same. Starmer has been weak and wildly disliked. That weakness has actually limited how much he could get away with at times, especially when it comes down to the writing, including in Southport and recently what happened with the Henry Newark murder. He's smoother, more politically skilled, and better sounding like he understands people's concerns while still pushing the same agenda. Burnham is different. He'll talk about the need to control immigration while continuing high levels of legal migration. He'll speak about community cohesion while doing very little to stop demographic replacement of native British areas. And when people raise concerns about two-tier policing, grooming gangs, or cultural change, he'll be much better at dismissing them as divisive or extreme. Exactly how Starmer does it, but slightly less obvious. Starmer was obvious and easy to oppose. Burnham will be more efficient at managing the decline while making resistance look unreasonable and fringe. That's what makes him so more dangerous. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video about me talking about Andy Burnham. Now, I don't really know much about the guy, but as well people have noted that he's doing Freemasonry shakes and a few other things as well. about his behaviour, and especially what happened with the Green gangs and how they stayed silent. Quite similar to what happened a couple of years ago, or even many decades ago, when this was happening, and us as someone like with Nigel Farage, and even someone like with Rupert Lowe, basically just ended up just keeping very, very quiet about something so serious like this. And especially when it comes down to this guy, people have apparently described him as a communist, especially because he's like a neo-Blairite or something along those lines. And especially we've seen this before, especially not just also within Labour, but also to do with the Conservative Party. And especially someone like with Boris Johnson, who was a complete dick in lockdowns, and his authoritarianism, which I feel like Andy Burnham's going to be a bit more tactical with this. I think he's going to be able to manage to decline, as I said earlier, but be able to actually do it in a way that is going to be slightly more better, because obviously Starmer just comes off as very robotic, especially in his speeches. I'm actually just written for him, obviously, why would he do it? But when it comes down to where, you need to be a bit more strategic around this, and especially how they responded to the riot, saying that it's calling division or extremism. We've seen this before. He's essentially just a new SOC manager. And whether the old SOC manager was bad or the new SOC manager was good, doesn't really matter. The issue still stays the same. And especially when it comes down to the corruption of the Labour Party, especially with the Fabian Society infiltrating it. I'm not sure if someone like Andy Burnham maybe have been involved in this, but when it comes down to all of the disgruntled or even batshit insane boomers that are a part of the Labour Party, or even currently, I do think it is safe to say that when it comes down to all of these people, that they're not actually the real alternative, especially when there's a new Prime Minister. And as well, if you want to go to the link in the description, we'll link to my other channels and Discord as well.